And the rule of law itself is now, according to many experts, quite clearly under siege. We're at an early point in the term. People have noticed. People are fighting back.
The president of the United States is not king.
What we're seeing is this administration continue to run afoul of the law.
This is against the Constitution.
A king unbound by laws who rules by decree.
It's going against our rights as people and especially as American citizens.
What's it going to take for us to wake up?
The American people bow to no king.
Is it going to be too late? Is it going to be when the president has accreted all this power and the Congress is an afterthought?
And the Congress is an afterthought. Well, Republicans have been pretty partisan for a while in D.C., but they've hit a new level in Trump's second term. The GOP's congressional leaders are now both from this Trump era, different than the first term. They oversee a caucus that bends to Trump, and if there are any holdouts, you've seen the game, they still get Trump to the votes he needs. Now, back in the day, first term, you had the late John McCain risking a lot when he gave that memorable thumbs down on the Senate floor to save Obamacare.
All we've managed to do is make more popular a policy that wasn't very popular when we started trying to get rid of it. I will not vote for this bill as it is today.
Mr. Peters.
The Senate failed totally to pass a skinny version of the Obamacare repeal bill.
The maverick made his mark.
The president, at this point, probably has limited ability to sway someone like John McCain.
That was the first term. Trump saw it was hard to legislate, and he just turned away from it, and he's never come back. Indeed, he's not been involved in most domestic legislation this year, only turning to the budget because it's required. It's not something the government can skip. They have to pass that budget to fund the government. But everything else, immigration, political retribution, these diversity clashes in the second term, Trump doesn't send bills to Congress on those topics. That would take work. It would take some collaboration with lawmakers, even if they're Republicans. No. Trump is pursuing these goals first through the power grab of these White House orders. And some are so lawless they keep getting smacked down. That was a top story tonight. This flood of executive orders leading to a loss, right? Because you can't just rewrite what's in the Constitution that defines citizenship. No president's ever had that power. But his current aides are not editing or limiting these orders, even if they're going to lose in court, as he lost again today with another national freeze. The effort is something larger, and that's what I want to make sure comes through tonight. They want more power in the White House for Trump. They want the president to have authority over every part of the federal government. That's the goal. It's in Project 2025, and these orders are part of that wider push.
Hours after becoming the 47th president, Donald Trump began signing dozens of executive orders.
Effectively press releases, right? The president saying, I want to do this, I'm taking action, I care.
We've just seen the signing of 9 or 10 executive actions.
But nothing might happen, and still others are probably lawsuit bait, really.
He rescinded Joe Biden's executive order lowering prescription drug prices for Americans on Medicare and Medicaid. Finally, someone's looking out for Big Pharma.
Why so many orders?
One part can be more powerful than any other is. Each controls the other, you see, and that's what we call checks and balances.
Checks and balances. That's what's supposed to ensure no politician can take too much power, as Schoolhouse Rock there puts it. And you have different articles of government there, right? Different articles of powers in the Constitution. Trump never showed a lot of interest in that type of constitutional law detail during most of his career. But once in office, he discovered Article 2. That simply lists and limits the powers of the president. But Trump falsely argued that maybe it just gives him all the power.
Then I have an Article 2 where I have the right to do whatever I want as president, but I don't even talk about that.
False. But Trump's second term shows a stronger push to take what he said there, a legally false claim, and make it a kind of test of whether the courts will give him powers that presidents didn't used to have. Trump appointees got the message. The story that's also in the news today, privately plotting about telling the courts, F you if we don't get what we want, according to a whistleblower. The current Trump resistance has noticed, and wants to stop this would-be king, which shows millions of people, 5 million in one day of those protests, see the problem. And the backlash to the current second term is different than the first, focusing on these very issues. If the U.S. was just going to have one leader doing whatever he wants with no checks, we would not have needed a revolution to reject that kind of rule by kings. Americans literally fought a war for the freedom to empower people to oversee an accountable temporary rotation of governments rather than a single person being a king telling everyone else what was going to happen. Now, I can tell you in our daily news, from the front pages to TV programs, the headlines focus on what Trump's doing each day. So if he cracks down on campus free speech or tries to end diversity programs, we cover that. That's logical. People need the facts about those things. But my point tonight is if you actually broaden out here, 170 days or so in, the way you could broaden out from a street map to viewing the whole planet, think about what Trump is actually doing through these powers. Because the vast majority of the things we're covering on a daily basis in this second term are not laws or legislation. They're all from his effort to use these temporary, sometimes illegal orders to change our government as we know it, to flood the courts and country with whatever he signs. And he often does that without getting any review, policy or legal, without consulting with the experts inside even his own government, let alone Congress. And Trump is doing this at a level that's unprecedented in history. That's just a fact. And so if you're listening and saying, okay, Ari, you're just saying he's doing this and you're saying it's bad, but what if it were different policies? Don't other presidents use orders? Let's get into it. Trump is trying to seize power with White House orders more than any president in history. Here are the examples. You can see it's not even close for the first 100 days compared to Reagan or Obama. More than Trump's own first term, which you'll notice was more in an Obama area of number, right? That's something where we talk so much about politics, but look at that. They used the orders similarly over the first 100 days of a term. Now he's gone completely bananas. And that's for all the reasons mentioned. The lack of guardrails, a huge shift in how power works, wanting to undercut Congress even though his party controls it, grinding down the checks and powers that are fundamental to our democracy if they're anywhere outside of the White House. Other presidents also viewed legislation as part of their legacy, like the Obamacare mentioned earlier. Well, President Trump, now in this second term, has the worst record ever at this stage for comparing actual legislation, which is how you're supposed to work with Congress, to leaning only on these orders at the start of a term. I'm going to show you the presidents who've wielded, say, both executive powers and new laws in the early days, right? FDR was seen as a very productive leader, did about 80 laws to 90 orders in a very, very important time, pivotal period there, post-Depression 33, going into trying to create the New Deal. He balanced the powers. Obama faced a Republican Congress and leaned a bit more on orders there. He tripled orders to laws passed. Now, how about Trump? Is he quadrupling? Is he doing 5 times? If we actually look at facts rather than the political debates that sometimes turn into just a shouting match, I want to show you Trump has blown all precedent out of the water. He signed over 35 times as many orders as new laws, almost no major laws whatsoever, no new legislation, no indication he wants to work with Congress more in the upcoming year on any non-required, non-budget items. This is the shift, and it's hard to see on a daily basis, but I want to make sure this comes through. A lot of people who study government think this is an autocratic effort. Past presidents, of course, might have had an interest in cutting out Congress, but most follow the limits. We don't have a modern precedent of any president, for example, signing an order saying they can just unilaterally rewrite the Constitution. That's something you hear about in Russia, not America. That's one of the orders I've mentioned, but you can see he's flooding the zone. He's also getting hit with more losses than any recent president, partly for that reason. Hasty, broad, sometimes legally completely frivolous, embarrassing orders that then get trimmed or outright canceled in court. So day to day, we follow the orders. We talk about birthright citizenship or DEI or the law firms. But sometimes we have to broaden out. And what we're seeing methodically done is an effort to not only cut out Congress, browbeat the courts, but to change how presidents govern this country, less like a democracy and more like an order-wielding king if he gets away with it.